How's it going, everyone? Dax here, and today we're going to be reacting to 10 times gamers noticed mistakes in the trailer. Let's get straight into it. And away we go.
Trailers for video games are meant to hype you up and make you go nuts, wanting the game,
True.
counting the days, and getting excited. But sometimes, well, mistakes were made. Hi folks, it's Falcon. Today on Game Ranks, 10 times gamers noticed a mistake in the trailer. Starting off with number 10, it's Kinect Star Wars. The second this game got announced, it became the
Oh my god, this was a game.
The whole thing just looked goofy as hell. And the trailer
I really wanted to play this at the time, though.
Favors, especially this one, which is meant to appeal to kids, I guess. But it's pain.
I wasn't a kid at the time, but I really wanted to connect Star Wars, but what was the problem? I never connect. It was 360, right? This came out 360.
Do we really need a game with dancing stormtroopers? The obvious joke would
I didn't know that was a thing.
Say that the game itself was a mistake, but here's the thing: the actual trailer is pretty accurate to what you're actually getting. Obviously, they show the Kinect sensor working way better than it
was like
ever did,
Kinect?
but that's pretty
Switch
standard
on it.
motion control game trailers, and they're always kind of misleading. We're not just talking about bad trailers here; we're talking about mistakes. If you look closely during this cringeworthy dance sequence, there's a pretty big one.
I didn't know this was part of the game. I thought it was just like you had a lightsaber and stuff, so I'm glad I didn't get it now.
Took the time to accurately replicate the kid's motion on the Kinect sensor in the upper left, but if you look closely, it's pretty obvious that the motions the kid doing don't match up with the moves that are apparently being done in the game. When it just shows the game screen in the trailer, keep your eyes on top left. It's not even close. The entire trailer is already a bountiful source of unintentional comedy, but you know what? The Chris Pratt as Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer, I think they actually did a better job marketing the game, because honestly, it probably more accurately represents what you're doing during the game than actually trying to replicate the game, because I mean, a lot of it is just sort of going haha.
This is what I thought it was more like.
And number 9 is Watch Dogs. The 2013 Watch Dogs trailer remains infamous for obvious reasons. One of the most misleading trailers that's ever existed.
This was all done on a high-tech computer at the time and then released it on console, and it was absolutely terrible.
Graphical standpoint. Unlike most bullshot trailers, this one's got all the UI elements. For all anyone knew, this was the game, and Ubisoft did nothing to make anyone think otherwise. Listen, I know all the downgrading and all that stuff that's been associated with some pretty nasty parts of gaming culture.
I feel like this should not be allowed. This is false advertisement at its core, and it should not be allowed in any sort of means.
But there's a good reason why.
And why AAA games are just so
most games are
bad
in a pretty
now.
sorry state, even when they're just months away from being finished. So the Watch Dogs devs just swung big with what they assumed they could accomplish with the graphics, and it didn't work out. Is it honest? Nah,
no.
I would say it's a little dishonest, but at the same time, I think they thought it was going to look a lot closer to that. In this specific case, though, they were really pushing it. Some of the visuals look more like a PS5 game rather than a PS4 launch game. There was basically no way it was ever going to look this good, and everybody knew. They called it out, like, immediately. When the game eventually came out, it was, of course, lambasted for not looking nearly as good as the 2013 trailer made it appear. There was no smoking gun that definitively proved the game had been intentionally downgraded, at least until this little mistake was discovered. A Guru 3D Forums poster who opened up the game files actually managed to find a whole host of graphical options that mimic the one seen in the E3 demo. It can only be accessed on PC, I mean, obviously, and they're not well optimized, but all the fancy lighting, fog, and depth of field effects from the trailer, they're here. None of it works, really. And after it was discovered, Ubisoft eventually patched it out. But it was proof that the E3 demo was at least absolutely not recorded on a PS4, rather on a development PC. And number 8 is Batman Arkham City. The first teaser trailer for Batman Arkham City was pretty badass. That I cannot deny. But it's got a few curious mistakes hidden in there. Not a long one by any stretch. And most of the focus is on this random guy getting interrogated by Doctor Strange. But some of the stuff with Batman shows off stuff that isn't actually possible in the game. Like this part where he's using a quickfire gadget while gliding. That's an ability you can pull off in Arkham Knight, but not here. Could it have been taken out
such a good game.
minute? Yeah, it maybe was intended to be in the game. I don't know, but either way, it's not, and it's in the trailer. This one's blink and you'll miss it, but when he shoots a guy with one of his tools, it's actually the Ultra Bat Claw, one of the few tools Batman only gets in Arkham Asylum. In every other game, he uses the regular old Bat Claw. Claw except for Blackgate, which for some reason has a regular Bat Claw and it uses the Ultra Bat Claw design.
I was about to defend it then, but no, that's dumb.
Plan on having the Claw be the upgraded version and then change their minds after the trailer, or maybe everyone's just confused about what the Bat Claw even is supposed to look like. And number 7 is Dark Souls 2. Looking at them now, the trailers for Dark Souls 2 pretty weird. It's like Bandai Namco knew that they had a big hit on their hands, but didn't really know how to market it. So instead of gameplay, we mostly got a bunch of CGI movies about stuff that only vaguely resembled the final game. Not that the gameplay trailers were super...
Dark Souls lore is one of the hardest things to follow. I literally, it's so hard. You have to go into a deep dive. You're better off watching some YouTuber explain it to you. It's crazy.
Accurate to the final product either. The 2013 game show one is a big one.
I do know. Sorry, I keep pausing. I do know that Dark Souls fandom does really love their lore, so I'm not trying to offend any of you. I've already offended the Call of Duty community, who else have I offended? The Last of Us community. I'm not going after the Dark Souls community, so calm down, you're fine. You're fine.
Apparently the light mechanic was somehow going to play into the gameplay as well, which sort of carried over into the main game. Torches aren't infinite in this game, and you can only light them at specific spots, so there's some danger of them going out, but the actual lighting effects are way less prominent in the actual game than the trailer. The difference is pretty massive, and it made the final game look way worse, too. That wasn't even the only weird mistake in one of these trailers. There was also a CGI one where the player fights a bunch of guys in white masks that are not in the game.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of weird.
Out in development?
Maybe.
Yeah, in fact, that's apparently what happened. But it begs the question, why make such a big deal about them in the trailer? And number 6 is Crackdown 3.
Maybe because they were meant to be a big deal, but maybe not.
Games just kind of came and went, didn't it? Back when
oh my god, I forgot about
E3
this.
2014 seemed like a really big deal, but
was this the Terry Crews one?
Couldn't help but wonder if what we were seeing was I don't know, necessarily possible. Let's say.
Yeah, 100% destruction or something, right?
Clearly meant to give us an idea of how the game works is when an entire skyscraper collapses. This was this insane reveal that strongly implied yes, we'd be able to blow up entire buildings in Crackdown 3. Fast forward 5 years.
I've never even played
another console generation to 2019 when the game actually came out, and no destruction, nothing. At least in single player. If you actually wanted to do the stuff shown in the trailer, you had to do this fairly mediocre multiplayer mode.
Biggest scam.
Why? Why is it like this? Well, because the entire real-time destruction engine was meant to be powered by cloud-based computing. They made it sound like this cloud technology would make the console 25 times more powerful than without, which if you've had any experience with cloud gaming, do I need to finish this sentence? I'm not sure.
No, I finished it for you, buddy.
Basically BS, right? It does not work that way. And big surprise, the developers struggled to keep this promised feature in the game before eventually just cutting it. Crackdown 3's trailer was just way too ambitious.
Actually, thinking of cloud gaming, I think NVIDIA's doing a good job, but I'm only hearing bits about that. They're not popping off, so.
For its own good. The explosion was just the worst of its many exaggerations. Like, the whole trailer is nothing like the final game. At number 5 is Cyberpunk 2077.
Was Terry Crews in that?
Another game where expectations clashed extremely hard with reality. Some of that's up to fans getting too caught up in the hype cycle, but CD Projekt Red is not
one of them
in this situation. I'm not going to rag on the first CGI trailers for not being representative of the game because it's basically meant to introduce players to this new setting, but later trailers are meant to show off the gameplay, and to put it mildly, it's somewhat misleading about what you're actually doing. The most egregious thing is that they cut together stuff from the actual game.
Oh, God.
Some of the clips are just blatantly fabricated. They're in-game cutscenes made specifically for the trailer. Everything they showed and implied made it seem like we were getting something like a Cyberpunk GTA 3, but the actual game's more of a linear, story-driven game with a mostly static world. On its own terms, I think the public perception has come to accept
like the different characters didn't really matter in dialogue anyway. You'd end up with the same conclusion no matter what, and then at the end, like actual decision, everyone could make the decision they wanted, no matter what decisions they've made in the previous part of the game. So it kind of made it pointless.
The game for what it is, but it took a while to get
there. But it was a fun game. I enjoyed it.
An accident that they left in? No, but that doesn't make it not a mistake. At number 4, Final Fantasy VIII. There's an obvious error in the trailers. Mostly these have been about misleading trailers, but let's talk about some that just plain screw it up. If you think video game advertising's bad now, nothing would prepare you for the misleading nonsense of a 90s video game trailer. Back then, advertising firms barely even knew what a video game was, let alone how to market them, so you got some really amazingly goofy stuff. Like this Final Fantasy VIII trailer narrated by the trailer guy himself, Don LaFontaine. This may be one of the most stereotypical 90s video game commercials I've ever seen.
Oh, let's
go.
Goofy
voiceover? Check. Absolutely no in-game footage shown? Check. Blatant misunderstanding of what the game even is? Oh, you better believe that gets a check. The most laughable line out of the whole thing has got to be this part where it says,
"And your thumbs will be really, really sore,"
while showing the character
thumbs will be
Twist
really
is firing a
sore?
machine gun, which is obviously from a CGI cutscene. I mean, this is a JRPG. It is not a first-person shooter or an action game. There's almost no button mashing in it. Your thumb will not get sore playing it. In fact, your thumb will probably thank you for playing this compared to any other game that might actually give you some form of carpal tunnel. It's such
big
a
L.
cheesy, hello, fellow kids type line that anybody
true,
who
but
knows
still, it's
anything
not
about games
bad.
would know is totally irrelevant to the game itself. And this is back when these games were fully
Okay, I feel like this game gets a pass just purely because it's so old that the people inventing the games probably didn't even know what they were doing.
turn-based. Yes, I understand.
Like, he even said that himself.
Incorporated action elements, but they're still not button mashers, right? I know it's just a dumb trailer, but it really stands out how totally wrong it is and possibly misleading, even if accidental. And number 3 is
to be fair, the audio quality was so bad I couldn't even practically understand what the guy was saying. I would have missed that in the trailer.
The major mistake of the Anthem trailer was being a trailer for
Anthem.
Video games
this was the biggest flop.
It was supposed to be BioWare's big swing into the game.
Yeah, this looked amazing in trailer form.
Instead, it was Anthem. The game has probably been BioWare's most public failure, even if it had some redeeming features. Like, it's not the worst game ever by a long shot, but the pretense that it
had nothing in it.
Even kind of the potential shown in the 2017 gameplay reveal trailer. Ooh. Now, what's interesting about it is that most of the stuff actually is in the game, but the experience is just nothing like it. There's a shot of a herd of wild animals running by. That's not in the game. There's a part where some monsters are fighting each other. That's not in the game. There's a part where a guy discovers dead-like caverns, implying there are secret locations to find. That's not in the game. Near the end of the trailer is a part where a robot gets attacked and fall over. That is in the game. But it's partitioned off in its own mission instance. It's not something that can dynamically happen. The multiplayer stuff is the most egregious, though. They show the player teaming up with other people on the fly, mid-mission. Seems like a simple thing. Tons of games can do it, for real, but Anthem can't. The rest of the trailer's problems fall in the standard stuff you'd expect from these types of gameplay trailers, but even for a vertical slice type trailer like this one, we were shown something just ridiculously different from what the final game is.
It was just so scripted.
I think it's a case of massive hubris,
ridiculous,
which is very often a mistake. At number 2, the No Man's Sky trailer, which is, of course, a mistake in of itself. So much has been made about No Man's Sky and its trailers.
They have redeemed themselves drastically, I believe. I believe they fixed most of the problems that it came out with, but I'm not sure about the trailer. I'm defending it already because I enjoyed playing the game, but we'll see. I played it when it was fixed.
It feels like there's not a lot left.
I've never seen the trailer.
But if you're going to talk about bad or misleading trailers, they got to be pretty near the top of the list.
Oh, okay.
The E3 2014 trailer was pretty amazing at the time, and even more amazing was how little like the final game
I've never seen a dinosaur like that.
The basics were all there, sure, but so much it was toned down or cut from the final product of the game that the developers were accused of false advertising. And again, we're talking about an instance of hubris, more so than intentionally just lying. But the ultimate effect was that they were essentially lying. Now, I don't know a lot came of the allegations of false advertising. There was an investigation, and from what I've read, they got off the hook. But
UK's ASA investigated and found no breach?
It just goes to show that a lot of people ended up feeling pretty hoodwinked by the game when it was released. Now, in 2023, the game is in a way better state. And
that's what I'm saying,
managed to get over the disappointing launch by being very consistent and very generous with significant updates to the game that cost nothing. Their post-launch support was just fantastic, but the game's lead developer, Sean Murray, managed to put his foot in his mouth more than a few times. I get being enthusiastic about the game, but some of the stuff he said before the game came out was super questionable, especially when it came to multiplayer. And I have a feeling everybody at the studio was just reeling back every single time he spoke publicly. The thing is, he rarely said anything directly wrong, but he implied a lot of things would be there that just weren't. And finally, at number 1, Aliens.
He's trying to sell that game.
Not as many trailers as blatantly misleading as the ones in Aliens Colonial Marines. This game was in development hell for years, so likely a lot of the game got changed between
I've never played
trailers,
this.
but the problem is that a lot of the stuff used in those early trailers would still show up in the later trailers. One gameplay, and I use the word loosely here, gameplay trailer, shows this sequence that was not in the final game at all, with multiple gameplay elements that also aren't in the final game. The whole part where you get chased by a crusher alien, then end up in a hangar with power
this must be why they have to announce, like, in the bottom left-hand corner at the start of, like, E3 trailers that this is not actual gameplay. It might change in the future because of this, most probably.
Equipped with flamethrowers. You can see it in the trailer, but you can't see it in the game. None of it ever happens. There's another trailer where you guys in this docking bridge between ships that get damaged, and your character gets a choice of what direction to dodge, implying the section is interactive, but it's just a cutscene in the final game. The weird thing is, all this pre-release stuff is not that impressive. Like, the gameplay looks pretty weak, like a subpar Call of Duty campaign, but it was actually a lot better than it was in the final product, which is...
Oh, wow, so that's good.
It was so bad that the ASA, the same people who investigated Hello Games and found no wrongdoing in the No Man's Sky trailers, actually did reprimand Sega for Colonial misleading trailers. They looked at the trailer for No Man's Sky and said, all right, you know, it's feasible that you intended to have this stuff in the game. Not so for Sega in this case. All the bad press forced Sega to add a disclaimer to certain trailers that said, work in progress, which isn't much, but it's better than nothing. We've talked about
I was right! I didn't even know! I'm such a firehead.
Sega to add a disclaimer to certain trailers that said, work in progress, which
that's
isn't much,
crazy.
but it's better than nothing. We've talked about a lot of deceptive trailers here and in the past, but this is one of the only ones that I know that got a lot of pushback, and the company behind it actually admitted some wrongdoing. I'd call it a standout mistake, though. How about you? Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like.
That's sick.
If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do
bad,
so.
really bad. But that's sick that I figured that out.
Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So
Hell yeah.
subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you.
Sick. Okay, that was a really good video, by the way. Make sure you check it out in the description down below. Yeah. So that's gaming for you. Lies and deceit. I love a AAA game this day and age. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Latest.